Time to get to the bottom of this next video. Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I am here with a brand new movie review, and this movie review is going to be for the franchise I am currently reviewing this month, for the animated franchise I'm currently reviewing this month, and that is the second installment of this franchise, and that is of course Despicable Me 2 from 2013, the second installment of the Despicable Me franchise, and pretty much the movie that established Despicable Me as a big iconic franchise of the 2010s. And pretty much what established Illumination's big trademark franchise officially. So yeah. So with that being said, and also kind of kicked off a bit of a somewhat downfall of the series I'm going to get to in this review, but let's discuss the plot. The plot is, while Gru, the ex-supervillain, is adjusting to family life and an attempted honest living in the jam business, a secret Arctic laboratory is stolen. The Anti-Villain League decides it needs the insider's help and recruits Gru in the investigation. Together with the eccentric AVL agent Lucy Wilde, Gru concludes that his prime suspect is a presumed dead supervillain El Macho, whose his teenage son is also making the moves on his eldest daughter Margot. Seemingly blinded by his overprotectiveness of his children and his growing mutual attraction to Lucy, Gru seems to be on the wrong track even as his minions are being quietly kidnapped en masse for some malevolent purpose. So, how is this film made? Well, Chris Meledandri, the CEO of Illumination, said in July 2010 that a sequel is already in the works. Around June 2011, Universal Pictures announced a sequel would be released in July 3rd, 2013. Meledandri confirmed in February 2012 that they had started working on the film. In October 2011, The Hollywood Reporter reported that originally Javier Bardem was negotiating to voice the villain El Macho, but the negotiations failed. And then in February 2012, originally Al Pacino was going to join the cast to voice the villain. But then around May 2013, last minute, producers announced that Al Pacino left the film over creative differences about how his character should come to life. At the time of his departure, Pacino's character had already been fully voiced and animated. Chris Renaud, co-director of the film, commented around Pacino's part was that they didn't want an unhappy actor and want something that is well realized on all sides. If they don't see eye to eye, sometimes it's easier to depart and move on from there. Really? You already had Al Pacino's dialogue recorded, but you decided to remove it? What? But Benjamin Bratt, who had already been considered before Pacino, stepped in to voice Eduardo. And then Chris Meledandri, producer of the film, admitted that he was not even aware of any of the major animated films of the last 15 years that has brought an actor at such a late stage. What about Up? Due to the finished animation, Bratt had to match his timing exactly the character's mouth movement. Initially, during his 5-day recording, he tried to imitate Pacino's voice, but found it impossible. He ended up only using Pacino as an inspiration, and resulted to go through his own interpretation of the character. And personally, I feel like they kind of should have just kept Pacino's dialogue. Because, when he left, they already recorded his lines, so I feel like they should have kept Pacino. But after the film was finished and released, after the few teasers departed around March and October 2012, Despicable Me 2 debuted in Australia on June 5th, 2013, and was theatrically released in the United States on July 3rd, 2013. And the film, like the first one, once again received generally positive reviews from critics and was even more successful than the first film, earning around $970 million worldwide, becoming the third highest grossing film in 2013, and was basically the second highest grossing animated film of 2013 behind a Disney movie I hate. At the '86 Academy Awards, the film was nominated for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song for Happy by Pharrell Williams, and lost both to the same Disney film I mentioned. It was even the most profitable film in the 101-year history of Universal Pictures. Now when it comes to my reaction, I remember this being one of the most long-anticipated animated sequels in 2013 when the teaser debuted in 2012, and once the movie did release in theaters that summer, I saw this film in theaters twice, and I enjoyed it about as much as the original, but slightly less due to some bad qualities once again. Usually some sequels don't have the charm that their predecessors had. If anything, most of them fall apart. There's a few rare exceptions, obviously, and mostly lead to a sequel that really don't make any impact to the story as well as not evolving its characters and or story. But there are some rare exceptions, and luckily, Despicable 2 is not one of those sequels. This is a film that carries the same charm and humor the first one had back in 2010, and gives us bigger laughs, funny new characters, and also evolves the older characters, which is something a good sequel should do. Much of the elements which made the first film such fun are here in the sequel, and although we have kind of lost Screw's development arc of softening from confident to sentimental father, as I was already completed in the first film, here he's already a sentimental father. But his arc develops further, and the film, thankfully, goes exactly where you want it to go. Even more thankfully, it does so with a great deal of humor, color, and action on the way. And the 3D was still good once again, and the voices are still excellent. Like, in the beginning of the movie, when you first see Gru, at first it looks like he's returned to villainy, and you think, oh no, this is going to be one of those sequels that undid the happy end of the first one, made everything pointless. But no, actually, it turns out the weapon he used was actually being used to create a balloon, so it's actually not one of those sequels, and so he did not return to villainy after all. So I'm glad they did not do that bullshit route, because I probably would have hated this sequel had they did that. Because that's the thing with those kind of sequels. That's the reason why so many sequels suck. They undo the happy ends of the first one and make all their efforts pointless. Like sequels like Ghostbusters 2, Alien 3, or Terminator 3. All the Terminator sequels after Terminator 2. What else can I think of? It's a Disney Star Wars trashology. Many things. But the thing that works best about this movie is that it continues the story and does not repeat it. It also does the same to the joke, which Illumination gives us newer and fresher content and not the humorous moments of the first movie. And when I say that some of the scenes are so hilarious that I was laughing so hard, I even sometimes constantly have to catch my breath in the theater at times. Like, not only are the jokes made better, but the characters were also even improved as well, particularly Gru, and the reason why is because he fully stands by his word in saying he won't return to evil and actually does certain scenes that are different from the first movie, notably scenes involving Margot and this boy she has a crush on. I'm going to get to that part in a little bit. New characters are also a lot of fun as well, like Lucy Wall was probably my favorite character in this movie. Like, I really like the funny, quirky personality she had, which was brilliant. It brought to life thanks to Kristen Wiig's fantastic voice acting. And one thing I'm pretty pleased with the film was actually not in the film itself, but rather the marketing. Like, with these trailers were actually not that long. They were pretty short. This movie mostly just got kind of teasers, really, or just first looks. Like, this had some of the most clever trailers ever. You want to know why? Because they did not show the villain. They did not spoil half the movie like trailers today nowadays do. And they kept certain story elements to a minimum, which allowed us to guess where the story would be going. Now, I love that decision. This is how trailers need to happen. Not trailers that usually just spoil half the entire movie, ruin half the movie for us, and ruin moments that could have actually been a shock, but we already knew they would be happening. But no, they did not go this route at all. So that was very great what they did. As far as problems go, I could have used a little more screen time with Agnes and Edith, although both characters do get some laughs and had a considerable amount of screen time. I don't think they really got enough. And also, when it comes to the villain El Macho, I did find El Macho to be a far developed villain than that comic relief for Vector, who kind of just felt like, at first he kind of seems like an antagonist, but with Vector in the first one, like around near the end of the movie, he kind of just starts to become a bit of a punching bag. Like when Gru successfully steals a shrink ray, like, he pretty much gets this helmet of... Never mind. I mean, actually, near the end of the film, when he tries to stop her from going up to space with that squid launcher, the first thing Gru just easily zaps him, and he falls off the ship, just hits an electric thing, gets zapped again, and then when And then when he's trying to flee the escape Gru was trying to rescue the girls in the first film, the moon starts to grow to bigger size because the shrink ray is losing its effects on the moon, and then it just slams right into Vector and stuff. So yeah, but Vector didn't really feel much like a developed villain to me, really. He didn't really have much of a motive other than just to outsmart Gru in villainy. So yeah, because around near the end of the first one, I kind of stopped taking Vector seriously because he just kind of turned to a punching bag at that rate. And the reason I like the first one slightly better is because of these bad qualities. Like, for example, the scatological humor can still be somewhat annoying, and they are a bit overused in this film, which foreshadows, which would kind of lead to the downfall of Illumination and lead to a certain film that would make this whole franchise a joke to the animation industry, which is going to be the next episode of this review series. And Marco's subplot is kind of rather useless and just ends very quickly, plus her crush wasn't even a needed character. And Dr. Nefari doesn't really get a lot of screen time here. Now, he is a bit more likable in this film, I will admit that. I definitely liked him much better in this sequel than I did the first film. Like, in the first film, I liked him in the first half, but then around the second half of the first film, he kind of became a bit unlikable. Thankfully, he's a bit more likable in this movie. He still doesn't get much screen time compared to the first film, and I kind of still wanted to see him get a little more screen time here. However, despite those bad qualities, Despicable Me 2 is still a perfect sequel to a good animated film for 2010, and would officially brand Despicable Me as Illumination's big trademark franchise, and it's still worth checking out if you love the first one and want to see the story of the first one conclude for good, to my opinion anyways. But anyway, until then, that's it for my review of Despicable Me 2, and if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Despicable Me 2, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if the first film heavily invested you and really want to see more from this company, then easily give this a watch and buy it and add to your collection for sure. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Despicable Me 2, I'm going to give Despicable Me 2 an 8.5 out of 10. There we go. That's it for my review of Despicable Me 2. Sorry, this kind of took a little long, guys, because I didn't want to, since there's only 4 films of this franchise I currently have to review, compared to the 5 Jurassic Parks I had to review, I decided I didn't want to rush the review series, so I did this one a few weeks late after the first film, because I still had 3 more other films to go, and plus some, yeah. But now that I do think about it, I'm probably just gonna have to do this and the next one back to back. Speaking of next one, that reminds me. Guess what is next in this series? Yeah, these little fuckers movie. The movie that made this franchise a joke. And pretty much caused some damage to Illumination that they have not recovered from for quite a bit. But, until then, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to subscribe to Movie Lover 120.